Much, Chief.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. So I believe that one thing that was left out in the beginning, and maybe it was covered, but I might have missed, is that this is going to be a recorded session. I hope that everybody understands that piece of it. So what Chief John, first of all, thank you so much for having us. The Why'd You Stop Me organization is super excited to partner with the CPOA to be able to bring an overview of this strategic communication, de-escalation, and procedural justice-based training to the men and women of the state of California, right? Because right now we're speaking to leaders from all over the state, protectors that have signed up to do an amazing job. I understand we have some attorneys on, we have some people from the DA's investigators, we have people from the DMV's investigators office, we have people from the sheriff's office, police, police departments across the state. And what an honor it is to be able to share this program with each of you. So as we go through this, if you have any questions, please, raise your hand or get in the chat box, and Tariq and Sean will help out with that. But we are going to have a time for question and answer at the end. So I want to make sure that everybody knows that there will be that time. Your voice matters as much as our voice does. And we learn so much from the questions that we do receive. So if you think of a good question, please ask it, because if you don't, we'll be in a lot of trouble, because I'm guessing somebody else on the call probably has a similar question, and we want to be able to get out in front and answer those questions. So you're looking at a weird screen right now. Can somebody give me a thumbs up if you see the PowerPoint? Are we good on the PowerPoint? All right, cool. All right. So Why'd You Stop Me is an organization that was created back in 2012, became a nonprofit in 2014, and was developed solely for community training. We started by providing a training for 7th and 9th graders and teaching them how to cooperate with law enforcement to achieve their greatness. We call it TAG. To date, Why'd You Stop Me has trained 40,000 community members. And we're very honored to be able to say that, because what we have committed to doing is we have committed to building safer contacts between law enforcement and the communities which they score and uphold to serve. So what I'm going to do right now is I need everybody to grab a pen and a paper if you have it. We're going to use that pen and paper once or twice throughout this this short presentation, and I'm going to give you guys a second to grab that pen and paper. But I want you to think about something, and we sit there and think about this idea that comes around what happens when we lose our strong side. So in law enforcement, right, if we lose the ability to operate with what's called our gun hand, how do we retrieve our firearm and utilize that if we have to? Well, we have that same idea in any entity, in any business, right? What are we going to do? What happens if we can't write with our right hand? So we have to make changes, and those changes sometimes feel uncomfortable. So what I'm going to ask you to do right now is pick up that pen, and in a second, I'm going to ask you to put it right down on that paper. But what I want you to do is just listen to the prompt before we get going. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to, on the upper right-hand corner of whatever piece of paper you have, I'd like you to write your first and last name with your weak hand. So go ahead and switch hands, put that pen in that other hand, and we'll take a few seconds. Write down that name that you have, first and last name with your weak hand. So some of you are still processing, but we want to make sure that we respect people's time. As you're doing that, think about the questions you started asking yourself while you were writing that down, right? I know when I first did, I was asking myself, man, how am I going to do this? What's an A going to look like? How do I write a B? How do I write a J? All these different ideas come about. And we want to be able to have those ideas hit us in a training setting and not when it's life and death. And so we want to be able to step into a training realm where we are challenging the parts of our brain that sometimes we don't use, bringing out the ideas that we've had that have sometimes gone away, and sometimes gone away because of trauma. And we want to be able to target our weaker side. That's really where we go with our training. We're going to give you one of our scenarios just so you have an idea, and you guys can hopefully play along with me on this, because I like to think I'm a salesman. So I'm going to try my hardest to do something for you. I'm going to try my hardest to sell you a box of tissue paper. Okay. This box of tissue paper, right? High quality. I mean, lotion infused tissue, right? I'm going to show you the box, right? You're going to get to see, I mean, it is full. Ladies and gentlemen, the box is full. The colors are vibrant. It's absolutely intact. The integrity of the box is amazing. I'm going to sell you this box for only 40 American dollars, $40. So if you want to buy this box for $40, one-time offer, go ahead and type a 1 in the chat. Just go ahead and give us a 1. Anybody that wants this, just a 1 in the chat. I'm not seeing any ones. $40 for this box. I mean, look at it. It's incredible. Absolutely. And why are we getting nobody typing a 1 in the chat? Well, let's see if I could change things for you. Okay. You guys tell me if this would be just a little bit different. I'm going to sell you the box for $40. Who wants the box for $40? I just need a 1 in the chat. Anybody want this box for $40? So as we sit here and we look at this, right? Now Jesse wants it. Now Sean wants it. Now Virgil. Now Osvaldo, right? All of these folks want this box. Johnny, you guys, guess what? The offer's done. We missed the opportunity. And that opportunity was missed because what we often do in law enforcement is we look at this idea that perspective isn't as important as perception. We have perception-based decisions, perception-based shootings, but our perceptions, aren't they based off of our perspective? And if we don't completely look around the box and fight for different angles, aren't we going to get into a whole bunch of trouble? So what we want to do is we want to be able to try on calls for service during stressful situations to seek to understand the people we serve. And we do that by looking at different perspectives. So as we go through this, think about that today, as we go through this brief training, and think about how we do business on a day-to-day basis. So what we're going to do is we're going to just run through a little bit about who I am, so you guys have an idea. My name is Jason Lehman. I'm a sergeant with the Long Beach Police Department. I have almost 16 years on the job, and I have been through a world of hurt as a police officer. It sounds crazy to say that. I worked on a gang and violent crime suppression team. I've been involved in unfortunate use of force situations. I've been involved in numerous internal affairs complaints. And I have to tell you in the most humble way that in my first few years as a police officer, I broke down the community I swore to serve. I have been a part of misconduct situations. I've been suspended from the job. I have dealt with trauma. I have dealt with a lot of really, really bad situations in my life that have hurt my family. They've hurt my friendships, and they've traumatized me so much internally that I haven't been whole. And because I wasn't whole, I couldn't serve in the way that the community would expect. And so as we sit here and we think about these things, we have to be able to look at who we are and what has happened to us in order for us to get into any of the stuff that we're going to start talking about today. So we are going to look from an inside out perspective at procedural justice. I have been so fortunate now to fully recover from the situations that I've been in. I've gotten a number of awards and accolades. I've been on TV and radio shows. I'm so fortunate to have done all of these things, but I did these things because of feedback from the people that I serve. And right now, I promise I'm going to do my best to serve each of you. I hope that you get something from this. I hope that you grab something from this and you share it with people. I hope it helps you not only at work, but with your family. I hope it helps you not only with your family, but with strengthening your family. I hope friendships get better. And I hope at the end of this 90 minutes that all of us can just be a little bit better. Our goal and the way that we discuss things is 2% better every day. So we're going to work through all this stuff. We're going to talk about it right now. I supervise about 15 of the best police officers in the downtown area or the South Division of Long Beach. I work Tuesday through Friday from 2 p.m. to midnight. So if you're in Long Beach and you need a police officer, give me a holler, and we'll come give you guys a hand. But super excited to tell you about this program. Why'd You Stop Me was created because of a death threat on police officers in Long Beach. And that threat led me into a classroom to speak to a group of kids. And when I spoke to a group of these youth, I had to figure out how we were going to stay alive. And that's the truth. It was a really bad and unfortunate situation. And I walked into this classroom, I spoke for about an hour, and I told these kids about my fears. Ultimately, I said, let me tell you about me. This is why I point guns at you. This is why I raise my voice. This is why we drive fast. This is why we make you crawl. This is why so many cops show up. This is why lights and sirens are used. And at the end of an hour, a young man stood up in the back of the classroom. And when he stood up in the back of this classroom, he looked at me. And in Long Beach, they call me tiny. I'm not sure why, because I'm like 6'4" and a little bit north of 300 pounds. But the nickname stuck with this guy. And he said, Tiny, do you remember me? And I couldn't quite remember. He said, 2 years ago, you arrested me with a gun in my waistband. It was raining. It was across the street from the school, and I was holding the hand of my first girlfriend. He said, do you remember me now? And I vividly remember the situations that were created during that instance. And he looked at me and said, today is the first day that I realized that police officers didn't just stop me because I was Black. I'm 17 years old, and I've been raised that police officers stop men and women of color because of their race. And I really needed to understand more. And today you gave that to me. But he left me with 3 ideas. And these 3 ideas allowed me to see what I could do differently on the job. He said, hey, during that incident and during that contact, you didn't realize something. You actually didn't realize a few things. And I'm going to tell you about them now. And this young man at 17 years old proceeded to school me up. He said, number 1, I was holding the hand of my first girlfriend. I was across the street from the school, and I was across the street from my house. My mom had just bought me clothes for my first date with my girl, and she used the last money she had. You got out of the car with your homeboys. You pointed guns at me, and you made me let go of the hand of my first girlfriend. You made me get on my knees and crawl to you. And I was raised never to be disrespected in front of a woman. Weren't you, Tiny? He said, number 2, my mom was across the street watching the whole thing go down. You dropped your knee in my back. You handcuffed me. One of your homeboys swept me away. And a police officer went over to my mom. And my mom explained that this is what she was told. Hi, ma'am, your son's getting arrested for having a gun. He'll call you in a couple hours. Take care. The young man looked at me and said, my mom wanted to know more. Wouldn't your mom want to know more, Tiny? And he said, number 3, and number 3 was one of the most powerful pieces. He says, this is something I know you didn't think about. He said, that gun wasn't for you. That gun was to protect my family. My brother had just been shot across the street on the sidewalk about 3 months before, and I was carrying a gun to protect my mother. He said, my responsibility is to protect my family. If that happened to you, wouldn't you be carrying a gun, Tiny? And so he sat there and schooled me on this stuff and looked at me and said, today's the first day I could say I respect the police. And today's the first day I could say that I see value in what you do. The young man stood back at his chair. He looked at me and thanked me for my time. And he concluded by doing this. Tiny, I thank you for your time and I appreciate it. You can't stop doing what you're doing. You got to know that this makes a difference. I appreciate you. You can go now. And this kid smooth kicked me out of the classroom. So I walked out of the classroom. I had no clue exactly what was going on. But before long, the assistant principal looked at me and said, hey, what's the name of your program? I said, I don't have a program. He said, look, I need something for the website. What's the name of your program? I said, I don't know. They always want to know why they got stopped. So call it, why'd you stop me? Why'd you stop me then gets endorsed by the Long Beach Unified School District. It starts getting spread across the state of California as a community training and empowerment program. And in 2015, we go to the city of Salinas in Monterey County where we start training police officers. We do a longitudinal 2-year study that shows a reduction in police use of force over a 2-year period and an increase in police legitimacy and community satisfaction. And so it's really important for you guys to know, everybody on this call to know, My goal was never to train police officers. As a matter of fact, isn't that one of the hardest things conceptually to do? And so we found a way in a system that works to be able to captivate an audience, but it's really about buy-in. And what we do in our training, and what's really important for all of us to think about when we do our training, is we should be asking ourselves, how is this going to help me? And why is this valuable? If we're not asking that, then we're failing ourselves, because training is supposed to change behaviors. Training is supposed to modify and build new behaviors. And so we have to focus on buy-in first. What we're proud to be able to say is that by focusing on buy-in and by building a safe space in a room, police officers and law enforcement professionals are able to sit in this space and speak about a lot of very important ideas that help us to deal with some of the trauma that we deal with. During the third quarter of 2021, 99% of our program attendees would recommend CP21 to their peers. And the thing that's most interesting is that we are not an organization where people just sign up to come to our program. We have agencies, full agencies, that are training every officer in their agency. And so it's not a group of people that are, all about community policing that are saying that they would recommend this to their peers. It's some of the hardened police officers. And as we sit here on this Zoom meeting, hopefully you can agree, in any profession, 1 in 12 professionals in any business, they kind of suck. So these numbers are include parts of that group. And we want to be able to help to make people better. We want the best to get better, and we want the people that are making some pretty bad decisions out there to get better as well. So we're going to go over some of the goals and objectives and show you a little bit about the procedural justice piece, show you a couple of videos, and then hopefully be able to get into some Q&A so you have a better understanding of how this training works. But you're looking at some of our trainers. We have a group of trainers that are involved with us in our organization, and we partner police officers and community members together during this training, and we'll explain to you the value of that as we move forward. But one of our number one goal is improving officer safety. Now, we're not going to be doing building searches or firearms. We're not going to be doing COGA or takedowns. We're not going to talk about handcuffing techniques. We're going to talk about what 99.9% of our job is about, and it's about what's up here. We're going to talk about how to improve officer safety through active listening and effective strategic communication. And we believe that we will be able to prove that we will be as good as any officer safety training that any police officer has taken. And our big focus is this: the way that we leave somebody in the community, that is going to be directly reflective to how that person is going to cooperate with the next police officer. And it's crazy to think about that. So we're going to talk more about that as we get through this. But the second one is to improve workplace morale and resiliency. Inside our morale, our workplace morale could be so much better right now. The hard times of 2020 and 2021 have really beat a lot of us down, and some of this trauma is really taken over for us. And resiliency is a really huge piece. So building some tools of resiliency and working on post-traumatic stress recovery is a major function during our training. Then we're going to improve success in the workplace and job and career retention. Think about this question, okay? Just do me a favor and really think long and hard about this question. Are you one decision away from getting fired? No matter what entity you work in on this training today, no matter whether you're an attorney, you work for the DMV's investigators, you're a gang cop for a sheriff's department, whatever it is you do, we are all one decision away from getting fired. We want to get you further away from that decision. And by getting you further away from that decision, we have a lot of other aspects that we have to be able to touch on to get you to that spot. But whether it might be the fact that you're going to say the wrong thing, or possibly do the wrong thing, or possibly that you're going to say the right thing or do the right thing, that might not be right today. See, it might have been right before. It might have been okay to say before, but in the 21st century, change has really impacted this law enforcement organization or the organizations we work for. The fourth is to become the best community instructor. If I asked you who your community policing officers are and you came in with another name, that's incorrect. You are the community policing officers. You are the community policing professionals. No matter where you work within the law enforcement profession, that's really what it's all about. So we have some recommendations that we will briefly touch on. The first one is scenario involved training, and utilize scenario involved training within 120 seconds during contacts with people, whether it be over the phone, whether it be on scene of a call, whether it be in an office, whatever it is. Scenario involved training is so very important. The second one is the idea of compliance versus cooperation, and this thought that words matter. So I'm going to walk you through another one of our scenarios, and I hope you guys get something out of this. But I want you to picture this. First of all, if you guys could do me a favor and type in the chat, if you could type a 2 into the chat to let me know if you have children. Anybody that has children, if you could type a 2 into the chat, that'd be great. Just a 2 into the chat. Good job, Rebecca, Jesse, Maria. I think Joshua says he has some kids that he thinks he knows about, which is good because you never quite know. Candido, George, Michael, awesome. So we have a number of people on this that have children. And I want you to think back to when your children were 4 or 5 years old and you were trying to get them to make their bed. And you walked in and you said, hey, this is how you make your bed. And then you started kind of coaching them. You made it with them. And then one day you gave them the opportunity to make it on their own. And you said, hey, guys, go out there and make your bed. And you walked out of the room with the expectation the bed would be made. Now, when you came back the first time with the expectation the bed was made, if the bed was not made, I want you to type a 3 into the chat. If your kids just kind of messed up on that first opportunity to make their bed, type a 3 into the chat for me. So I'm seeing some 3s coming along, right? So we're seeing this commonality that our children, they didn't quite listen to us, right? So I want you to think about what you told your kids. How did you fix that problem? Because your kids were ultimately resistant to your order, right? You gave them and provided them a lawful order to make their bed. You are the police officer in the home, right? And you told them they had to do something. So when's the last time that you think one of the parents on this call, maybe yourself, looked at the kid when you found out that the bed wasn't made, you looked at your child and you said, stop resisting, comply, stop resisting. Young man, stop resisting and comply. Make your bed. See, the truth is, unless you are really weird, you didn't do that. You just didn't. And if you did, we have some therapy services available for you. We can definitely get you some help, but you're going to have to recover because there's something going on. It's not normal. Well, then we take this idea and we can relate it directly into the field. Think about the last time you were engaged with or saw a police use of force, whether it be on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or the news. Weren't police officers saying stop resisting and comply? Well, if they were saying stop resisting and comply, what does that mean to the person that they were dealing with? The person who is ultimately in crisis. So let me ask you this question, and maybe somebody can answer for me. If I am punching and kicking and a police officer comes up to me and says, stop resisting, what does the police officer exactly want from me? See, the truth is that subject, or if you want to call him or her a suspect, they won't know. As a matter of fact, words like stop resisting, comply, relax, telling somebody to relax during a use of force. Oh yeah, I'll relax, right? These things don't work. They're called beta words. They're not understandable by both sides. So we have to begin looking at training. And if we're already doing it, we want to be able to boost the morale you have in this and show you that you're doing it right. But we have to be able to use terms in these dangerous situations that people understand. And so we want to be able to say, stop kicking, stop punching. We want to be able to actually use some of the stuff that we might write in our police reports, like, you're scaring me. Because it's very easy for us to write in a police report, I was fearful that they were unsearched. I was fearful they were going to flee. I was fearful they had a weapon. Well, when was that fear expressed to them? Because when we express fear and we show vulnerability, people have a better tendency to listen during stress situations. And so we want to be able to look at this different idea of compliance versus cooperation, right? Stop resisting versus stop punching, stop kicking. telling somebody they need to relax versus me telling them, help me relax. All of these things are so very important, and that's one of our big recommendations. We want to utilize 12 tips on a daily basis for positive contacts. We want to look at community engagement as a requirement. So what is this base? What is the basis of all of this training? And the basis of all this training comes in procedural justice. We are a post-certified Plan 5 course. What that means is that our course is ultimately free. The course costs are paid for by Post, and Post has asked us to develop the best procedural justice training in the state. You heard Chief John Perez talking about procedural justice that he had prior to 2018 and how it almost failed. Well, we believe it almost failed because procedural justice looks a little bit like check the box training unless you're able to provide effective stories, utilize adult learning theory techniques, and keep audiences engaged. The vulnerability that we provide and the stories that we provide throughout our training with our master instructors allow people to stay engaged. So let's cover these 4 pillars of procedural justice really quick, because I'm not sure exactly who knows. As a matter of fact, let me do this. If you are here on the chat and you have not taken a full day procedural justice course, can you type a 1 into the chat? You have never taken a procedural justice course, so 1 into the chat for me. All right, so George hasn't, Virgil, Osvaldo, Jason. Oh, Jason, that's a great name, brother. Cool. So there's a number of people that have never taken a procedural justice class. Procedural justice is usually the center of any critical decision-making model. So procedural justice will directly impact how we deal with a crisis situation in the field. So it's extremely important when it comes to dealing with force, or what some people call de-escalation. So we're going to cover these 4 pillars. If you write nothing else down today and you decide that this was enough training for you and you don't need the full day training, please write down these 4 pillars. And I'm going to explain the 4 pillars very briefly. The first one is voice and providing opportunity and space for voice. We have to not only be able to say that we gave a voice, but we have to be able to prove that when safety allows, right? Because we don't want to jeopardize officer or community safety. When safety allows, we want to provide and understand and recognize and actively listen to the voice of the community. It's really, really important to listen to the voice of our bosses. And when we are done with our training, we'll have a better understanding of how much the community actually are our bosses. And so we want to be able to take a look at that voice aspect and see what that's all about. The second one is neutrality and treating both peers and community members fairly to shape attitudes. So I'm going to ask you guys to type into the chat real quick, if you could. Type a 2 if you believe that when you interact with the public, that you treat people the way you want to be treated. Type a 2 into the chat. I treat people the way I want to be treated. Type a 2. So I see a whole bunch of 2s, a whole bunch of 2s, a whole bunch of 2s. What if I looked at you and I told you with the most respect in the world that each of the people that typed a 2 into the box, that you might have been lied to? You might be unfortunately incorrect. And when I sit there and I talk to you about this, I don't want to make you feel bad, but I want us to think about this concept. Do you think everybody that you encounter wants to be treated like you? Do you think that when you get into a forced situation and you treat somebody the way they want to be treated, the way you want to be treated, like, you know what? I listen to authority. Why aren't they? I'm going to talk to you like you should be listening to authority, like you should understand because I understand. Unfortunately, our studies have shown that's one of the most dangerous approaches to a forced situation. What we want to be able to look at is we want to be able to look at the platinum rule. And the platinum rule takes the golden rule and flips it. The platinum rule says we treat people the way they want to be treated without jeopardizing officer or community safety. Do me a favor. Those people that typed in 2, do me a favor and type in 1 if you believe what I'm saying might actually have value. Type a 1 if it matters to treat people the way they want to be treated. Go ahead and type a 1 in. And that change mindset, that growth mindset shows that all of us can do better and can excel. Our goal throughout our training is to take twos and make them ones, to be able to switch hands and be able to look at different ideas. And I'll tell you, in a court of law, when you are in federal court, and unfortunately, I've had a few trips to a federal courtroom myself, when you step into federal court, attorneys will try and flip it on you because they'll say, do you treat everyone the way you want to be treated? And then they'll ask you, do you treat everybody the same? And then they'll say, oh, okay, so you treat a 14-year-old like you treat a 45-year-old. And then they'll start talking about the way that you are treating their client. So it's important to think about that, not just to be able to express it in court, but to actually live it and to understand it. That's what neutrality is really all about. The best way to look at neutrality is I seek to understand the people I serve so I could treat them the way they want to be treated. You want to take neutrality and take it to the highest level. It sounds something like this. I seek to understand everybody I serve, including the people I don't like. That's where neutrality comes into play. The third one is respect, and this understanding of respect. And as you sit there and think about it, if I ask you to define respect, it would be pretty hard for most of us. Respect, and the way that we look at respect, is throughout the contact, throughout the time that we are spending with the person that we're dealing with, are we fighting to keep their dignity intact? Not just allowing it to stay intact. Are we fighting to keep the person's dignity intact? I'm going to point a gun at you during a high-risk stop. I'm going to make you get down your knees. I'm going to make you crawl. But what is my 120 seconds going to be after that? Am I going to be apologetic because I understand that crawling on the hot concrete's no fun? Am I going to be able to check on the safety and welfare of you throughout the contact? At the end of the contact, am I going to explain myself? Am I going to answer questions of your mother across the street? Am I going to address you the way you'd like to be addressed? Am I going to make sure that I help to maintain your dignity throughout the contact? And that's where respect really becomes valuable. That's how we prove respect. And then the fourth one is trust, and best ensuring trust in both people and process. So we have this banking system in our community, and this banking system is called the Bank of Trust. The Bank of Trust has actually taken deposits and withdrawals from 800,000 police officers across the state. I don't know if you've ever heard a guy named Derek Chauvin, but he took a pretty big withdrawal out of the Bank of Trust. And what it resulted in California peace officers and peace officers across the entire country losing a very effective control hold called the carotid. So we have to be able to put deposits into the Bank of Trust in an effort to be able to know that we have enough in our bank so that when we shoot that unarmed 14-year-old because we perceive there was a gun, and that was the minimal force, the absolute minimal force necessary to effect an arrest and overcome resistance and ensure both officer and community safety. When we do that, we still have enough in that bank for people to be able to see us as legitimate. And that's where police legitimacy comes into play. Under the understanding that community members see us as legitimate is extremely important. We do that by being able to explain what trust building mechanisms we utilize. If I said, are you a trust builder? You'd probably tell me yes. If I said, how do you build trust? And why do you build trust? It might be a little bit harder to answer those. So we want to be able to provide you with some tools and tips on how to do it. Think about this conversation that you see on this screen, and it might sound a little bit aggressive, but this is an old school way of field training. So you go into a police academy, and then when you get out of the police academy, the FTO says something to this extent: we'll treat everybody with respect unless they act like an a-hole. Once they act like an a-hole, we'll treat them as such because respect is earned. Do me a favor. If you could admit this and be a little vulnerable, can you type a 1 into the chat if you experienced something like this through field training or heard about it in law enforcement? Type a 1 into the chat if this resonates with you. So we're seeing ones come up, and I would say left and right, but it doesn't make sense. We see ones come up straight down this chat. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. And the rookie officer's response is what the rookie officer's response is going to be. Copy that, sir. Copy that, ma'am. And that's what creates and builds a system of trauma. Now it forces us to treat people like a-holes. When we treat people like a-holes, we leave the situation, whether we like to agree with it or not, feeling a bit traumatized, because it's not our job to treat an a-hole like an a-hole. As a matter of fact, Here is the new system that we are here to be able to be proud to teach. We treat everybody with respect. We recognize that the people that treat us with respect back, they already get it. You're not doing anything special there, officer. They already get it. That's the easy part. But when somebody treats us like an a-hole and they don't jeopardize officer or community safety, we need to spend more time with them. We need to educate them and tell them why we do what we do, who we are, find commonalities, build bridges, and teach them within a 120-second time frame why we need to be respected, why we're human, and why what we're doing is something that is one of the most heroic things that any human being can do. Each and every one of you that are on this call, whether you work, as an attorney or a DMV investigator, an officer, a DA's investigator, whatever it is, those are all jobs that build a lot of trauma. And we want to be able to express and explain some of the stuff that we're going through. I want to provide you with that system. Our team wants to provide you with that system, because this system that you're looking at, this question you're looking at, unfortunately, that aspect of this system is broken. And I'll tell you why. When you treat somebody like an a-hole and you leave, the next time they see somebody like you, what's that relationship going to look like? Is it going to be all peaches, fairies, and butterflies? Because a lot of people think community policing is about hugging thugs and kissing babies. It's about the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. I believe it is about giving your community an opportunity to show you care. And if we want to call it a hug, we can call it a hug. But I'll tell you what, if you need to use force, this training is not going to stop you. We're not going to jeopardize officer safety. And when force absolutely has to be used because it's what's necessary, then we're going to use force. Can't eliminate that in law enforcement. But if we don't start making some of these changes, certain uneducated policymakers are going to fight to hinder us. They're going to fight to make our careers and our jobs harder. So it'd be easier for us to work from the inside out than have somebody from the outside come and tell us what we're going to do inside our house. And so that's why embracing this is so very important. We want to be able to take that and embrace it and run with it. So now the approach is, if I perceive an a-hole, I'm going to approach the a-hole and try and look at them and make a difference in that relationship. Let me bring it into the walls of our personal home. You walk into your home and your wife or husband starts screaming at you. They start calling you names. They start telling you that you're the worst person in the world. And you look back at them and you go, you know what? F you. You're an idiot. Go pound sand. You know what? Nothing you're saying has any value whatsoever. You dummy. And you run right out that door. You go sleep somewhere else the next night. When you come back in your house the next morning, is your spouse going to just welcome you with open arms? It's not going to happen. It's going to be a more volatile situation the next day. Well, those are the types of engagements that we, without even knowing it, are sometimes building in our communities. And it's jeopardizing both current and future officer and community safety. So we're going to watch a video real quick about a police officer who has been trained to our CP21 principles. Officer Ruben Navarro in Long Beach is going to come in contact with a young man who is going to have matched the description of a robbery suspect. A robbery goes out in Long Beach at 3 a.m. near the intersection of Pacific Coast Highway and Pacific. And if you haven't been to Long Beach lately, Pacific Coast Highway is not quite near the coast. There's some things going on Pacific Coast Highway. And there was a robbery that went on in this area. The person that called described a male black in a fluorescent yellow shirt. We, in law enforcement, when we get to that area within a matter of minutes and we see a male black wearing a fluorescent yellow shirt, we would be able to articulate for the most part that we have reasonable suspicion to believe that this person may have committed the crime, and the stop is going to be made. This officer is going to make the stop, and at the end of the stop, you're going to see what 120 seconds looks like. It used to be called the dust off, but when you tell people you dust them off, that means that you maybe purposefully dirtied them. I don't really like the term that much. So that 120 seconds is what you're going to see right here. If you can turn your volume up a little bit, the volume is a little bit low on this. So please just ensure that your volume is up. And when I start the video, if somebody could just give me a thumbs up, that'd be great. It's a short video.
Okay, go ahead,
man. Going through this seminar, why'd you stop me? It helped me out because I got to understand from completely from an officer's side. Uh, you know, I was told that, they hear things over the radio and they don't really know the person that may or not be, but they can't really risk and they don't know the person. So I learned that, they're high anxiety and they still have to get home to their family. So, maybe their adrenaline's pumping a little rough. And sometimes we don't understand that, because we feel victimized or we're trying to get out of crime. So
And how would you say Long Beach PD treated you today?
Long Beach Police Department, they've always treated me respectfully, actually. Even sometimes when you blow up, they have more patience. A lot of officers have been younger than myself. Probably don't look like it, but I'm 38 and, I listen to them,
Would you recommend Why'd You Stop Me to other people?
I recommend that to the nation because, some people's thought processes are biased and, some are just, they're traumatized and they just choose to be ignorant in some areas. But, you got to be open-minded and communicate. And that's what the program was really about, just communication between officers and community.
All right, man. Well, thanks again for that message. And I'm sure Jason, Why'd You Stop Me program, they'll appreciate that. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
All I can say is thank goodness that video played till the end because most of you thought he was handcuffed. Your bias triggered. But the truth is, that's a video that was taken at 3 a.m. And some people that we trained, they come to us and they say, was there cue cards involved in that? Was this planned? And I could tell you there's a video that was sent to me from a work iPhone over to my iPhone when I was working as the community engagement officer for the Long Beach Police Department. And it's powerful because that young man had not only received training from our organization through a resisting arrest diversion program that we work with the Long Beach City prosecutors on for low-level resisting arrest cases that helps people to divert from their sentencing to be able to go in there and learn how to do this. This gentleman had been arrested for resisting arrest in the past, and he received our training, and that's what it looked like now. And so that's what we want to be able to do, but we don't need a full training of the community to be able to do that in part. We learn in our system how to be able to engage differently. And that's what Officer Navarro was doing. He was trying to engage differently and trying to humanize that badge during that contact. So pretty cool to be able to think about that and to be able to kind of see what the effects and impacts are of the training. Where we think we're different from most organizations is that we bring police officers and community members together, but both entities sit in the middle. So we're not bringing some radical person into the room to give some ideas that are completely off kilter. We bring community members in that provide you with information that would help you to understand what community members go through from their lens during a contact. I'm going to very briefly tell you about Zena Valenzuela. Zena Valenzuela is the leader of our community training organization, and she would be more than willing to come in to the walls of your agency or organization to be able to provide a 1 hour in-depth training that I'm going to give you a synopsis of in about 5 minutes. So Zena Valenzuela grew up in Hawaiian Gardens. At the age of 7, she saw her father kill somebody in front of her in a back alley. She goes into a house, at which time the LA County sheriffs go in there and pull her dad out of an attic. She was hiding, sitting on top of a bunch of needles in a bathroom because her dad was a heroin addict. Zena, through all of that, saw her father get taken away, and her mother said, "This is why you don't trust the police." After hearing that story, Zena did not trust the police, but she did excel in school. She got very good grades. She got into college. She got married. She had 4 children, but she quickly realized that her husband got addicted to steroids and started becoming very aggressive. He was both physically and verbally abusive to Zena, which forced Zena to be able to want to get out of that instance and get herself into a situation to make herself a little bit better and find a better situation for her at the time. I'm cutting out a lot of details about this, but ultimately Zena was kidnapped for a 2-day period and gang raped by 12 individuals. And after that, she turned to methamphetamine to help mask the pain. She ended up becoming what we would consider a meth addict, or some of us on this call might utilize the term tweaker. Zena was in a very, very bad state. She was about to commit suicide and jump in front of a bus when the gentleman you're looking at right here, Officer Gary Briere, pulled over and saved Zena's life. Officer Briere utilized procedural justice, which we also refer to as procedural fairness, by asking Zena questions that were probing, that showed he cared. And the first question he asked her is, where do you see yourself in a year? Zena was able to turn her life around with the help of Officer Gary Briere, who got her into rehab. And Officer Gary Briere is still to this day one of Zena's mentors. Zena then linked up with me. And for the last 9 years, Zena has been speaking to youth about how to cooperate with the authority to achieve their greatness. The story that Zena has is powerful, but what makes the story even more powerful is a young man named Isaiah Ashby. This is another one of Zena's heroes. Isaiah Ashby was raised in a very violent home. He was forced to lay down when he messed up in football, lay down. His father pulled his pants down and beat him with a wire hanger. To this moment, Isaiah Ashby has scarring on the back of his thighs from that hanger. Isaiah Ashby was twice removed from the Department of Children and Family Services, and Isaiah Ashby had to deal with a mother who was addicted to methamphetamine. In 2016, Isaiah Ashby graduated with a degree in engineering from one of the top engineering colleges. And in 2017, Zena Valenzuela walked across the stage and pinned the badge on her son's chest. Officer Isaiah Ashby, Costa Mesa police officer Isaiah Ashby. It's crazy to think about it, but oftentimes we have to look at how we treat people because internally it becomes very impactful. Isaiah has told or Officer Ashby has told a few different stories about how police officers have said things so cruel and harsh about people that are experiencing drug addiction to him that it's almost shut him down internally inside of the walls of the organization. And it's crazy to think about it, but Zena is not a tweaker. She's a person who experienced drug addiction and turned her life around. She's a person who developed a person who is Black and Hispanic, who's now a field training officer and working to get on the SWAT team in the Costa Mesa Police Department. Absolutely amazing young man and a leader. So when we think about this, it's incredible to think about what community members can bring to the training and what we can think about in the way that we treat people. I hope that you never forget what I say right here. When you engage with somebody, or when police officers engage with somebody, they're engaging with them on Saturday in Vegas at 2 a.m. They're meeting people at their worst moment. And that's not usually who people are. It's what people are presenting. And so what we learn that we have to be able to better understand the trauma that we've gone through in order to be able to better serve. And that brings us to the next module of our training, which is another hour-long piece called Increasing Resiliency in Police and Emergency Personnel. And we build out this training in conjunction with a number of different partners. But one of the leaders of our training is Armando Yearwood. He's a 21-year Marine Corps veteran who has dealt with extreme trauma in the Marine Corps, and a 16-year veteran of the Long Beach Police Department, spending 11 years working gang and violent crime suppression, dealing with some of the most hardened criminals and gang members in the city. But he very briefly is able to talk about utilizing procedural justice internally with peers, subordinates, and superiors in an effort to try and be able to bring out the people that may need a little bit of help, because it's okay not to be okay. It's just not okay not to ask for support. When somebody does ask for support, are you and your organization fully prepared to provide that support? Because we want to be able to help you with that. And we have experts that can help you with what needs to be done. We partner with people like Gordon Graham, and I'm very proud to say that I am a consultant with Lexapol and the Lexapol organization on the national level for community and constitutional policing. And Gordon Graham takes resiliency and kind of flips it. He says, hey, there's 10 F's for success that we can focus on. And we give out a list to the people who take our training and go over these 10 F's. And these 10 F's are F's that we give to a police officer or a leader within a law enforcement organization and ask you to go home and do some homework. Because oftentimes what we don't realize is the spouses that we go home to, they want to help and they don't know how. So this 10F checklist is really important because it allows us to ask our spouses if we are on track with these 10 F's. A few of the F's are family, fitness, finance, friendships, freedom, those different ideas. And so what I'd like to do right now is introduce you to Adam Sturgeon. And Adam Sturgeon is a sergeant with the Long Beach Police Department. He has his own organization, Sturgeon Wellness, but he just recently came in to partnership with the Why'd You Stop Me organization, and he's going to help us out with our resiliency. But he just experienced our CP21 training probably about 2 months ago. So he is a fresh student to be able to give you some oversight or overview as to what the training had done for him. So Adam, if you could just spend a couple minutes and let us know what you thought about the training, that'd be great.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks, Jason. Like Jason said, I'm a sergeant with Long Beach. We're actually classmates. I've been there for almost 16 years. And I just started my own wellness program, Sturgeon Wellness. And prior to this, Jason's been talking about Why'd You Stop Me for a long time. And since we're friends, it's kind of hard to listen to your friends sometimes when they're trying to tell you something. But he was right. And I'd say the biggest part of this training that I took out of it was the resiliency portion, because that's mostly where the space that I'm in. And as far as resiliency goes, I think Jason touched on it, but what he emphasizes in this training is the idea of respect, treating people with respect. And a lot of the training is the idea of treating others with respect, the community with respect. I think it's important to recognize, like he just touched on, that the respect starts within the organization, within the family. We can treat our people with respect, whether you're training them, you're debriefing incidents, you're disciplining them. You can still have respect for one another, whether it's your peer, someone you supervise, or even your boss. And as long as we're treating with respect and have this idea of transparency, we're going to move forward, I think, better as a community. So I just made a couple of notes here just while Jason was talking, but the training that we went through, it gives you an open lens on how to treat other people, like you said, the way that they want to be treated. And this even comes within the organization. And as we deal with each other, it'll just make us better police officers. So when we go out and talk to the public and have these engagement and interactions, we're able to build them up because we're already being built up with each other and taking time for each other and holding that space for each other and then putting that out as a community. So he touches a lot on his training. Armando is a great teacher, and just the way he deals with resiliency and the idea of just making sure that we take care of ourselves, the idea of like putting your mask on first and then taking care of your partner, but we have to take care of ourselves and our organization, and then we can better help the community as well. So yeah, I appreciate taking this training. I took it a couple months ago, and I'm glad to be partnering with Jason. And this is a great training. I'm glad to be dealing with the resiliency portion. Hopefully, we'll build that out even further.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Adam. I appreciate it. And we're gonna keep on going. When it comes to the resiliency portion, where we become resilient and where we recover from post-traumatic stress is when we learn systematic approaches to things. And so we have to build out systems on how we do stuff. We need a system on how to prove trust and how to show respect. So we have 12 tools that we help, that we show that can be implemented in different ways within 120 seconds to build trust in our community, which actually makes us feel good. So these 12 tools are listed here. I'm gonna, it's not something I'm gonna speak through right now, although I can answer any questions that you have about those tools, but I want to respect everybody's time and get to the question and answer. But I also want to be able to show you that we do not just provide a training. We provide a training that provides survey and data analysis that is measurable. And if you're going to a course and you think that the course is supposed to help, but they don't give you a survey, then the instructors don't know what is going right or what is going wrong. It becomes more of a Magic Mountain roller coaster ride than anything else. And so we provide a survey, an in-depth survey. And what I want to be able to do is just take you through the survey and show you some of the results. What I'm doing here is I'm pulling up a survey, or the survey that's pulled up is from the Dinuba Police Department. We trained a bunch of agencies within Dinuba. Now, I will tell you, if you're from a larger organization, we train large organizations all the way down to small organizations with inner city communities, all the way over to organizations that don't have much of an inner city, like maybe in Atherton, which is one of the most expensive places to live in the state of California, with the median household price, the median house price being $4.1 million. So we sit here and we look at these different places. We're talking about the human condition and human relations. So when you look at this, just understand that the results are very similar no matter where you go. So there's a question like CP21 has helped me to see community policing as even more beneficial. And you'll see these different, objective pieces or subjective pieces of strongly agree. But then you look at the comments. Great training, very informative, showed me how the community needs to be treated. Excellent tool, regardless if you're in law enforcement. I learned how to be a better communicator and humanize the badge. I have a different perspective when it comes to policing in such a positive manner. In the most humble way, the responses are very similar all the way down. And we're looking at 63 respondents in this series of evaluations. But you sit there and look at this question, which this question is, what part could be changed or removed or done differently, right? That's where we should be challenged. And somebody should say this part wasn't good or that part wasn't good or remove this part, right? The responses are pretty interesting. Nothing. It was great. Keep CP21 as is. There's some in-class singing. That part I didn't like, right? Good instruction, wouldn't change a thing. NA, nothing, everything is good. Keep doing more of these trainings. So we want to be able to kind of show you that, when you go through this course, we're going to keep it upbeat. We're going to make it interesting and important, and we want to know what you found troubling or upsetting. 58 of the 61 people who responded here said that nothing was troubling or upsetting. But then a couple people said, I've gone through some of these bad, and some officers need to be able to relate, not just a bad way, but an emotional way during the individual stories. We want affective learning in this classroom. We want to be able to be vulnerable. Would you recommend it to other law enforcement officials? And this is the most valuable part to us. The police officers that took this class and these 61 or 63 that took this, they 100% of this 60 number would recommend it. And that's a big deal to us because most people are forced into this class, and then they have to realize through being forced in that it's a good class. We want people to want to take it on their own because it's very helpful. So there's a bunch of further comments, and in these further comments, you'll see great training. Keep doing what you're doing. This is an outstanding course, and there's 31 responses, but we're not gonna be able to bore you with all of them. We just want to be able to show you that that's what our survey is all about, and that's how we get better. So I'm going to put up a list of agencies of police officers. There's police officers from all of these agencies who have attended our courses. A number of these agencies we've provided full agency implementation on, but we've trained 7,000 police officers in the state, and we still have 63,000 to go. We're fortunate enough to be able to say that Post has fully funded our training to be able to provide that to agencies in small group learning environments. Our training is 18 minimum and 25 maximum on a 9-hour training day or a 10-hour workday. It's 9 hours of training with a 1-hour lunch, totaling 10 hours. It's a training that we can bring to your area, and we would be so honored to bring it to your area. Right now, Tariq is ready to be able to bring trainings to the different regions. Right now, we have 21 training dates on the calendar for next year, and only 2 of those training dates are booked through the CPOA. I'd like the numbers to be flipped if I could, because the CPOA is bringing this high quality training to you, and they are trusting in us to provide this high quality training. Right now, we have a training in Region 6 with Ontario PD on February 21st, and we have a training that we are in the process of locking down that we believe is going to be in Region 10 with Pasadena PD on February 1st. We've had the opportunity to train in most of these regions, but not always through the CPOA, and the CPOA has been a huge partner to us. So when we sit there and we look at who in the agency could benefit, right? Because probably some people are saying, well, who benefits from this? I'd argue everybody, but think about it this way. Field training officers, the ones that are still saying, if we show respect, we're going to show people respect, but if they treat us like an a-hole, we're going to treat them back, right? So that part is an issue, right? And then we have officers and sergeants aspiring to promote, right? We want to be able to help people with the terminology that's necessary to promote and the understanding of 21st century policing to promote. Current field supervisors, right? Somebody comes into the briefing and says, let me tell you about this really cool story about how I helped this kid. And an old school supervisor says, hey, keep your mouth shut, man. Let's talk about this building search we did and how we should have pointed more guns at people, right? So sometimes you have that type of approach happen. And then honestly, we can break it down, but truly it's just all law enforcement personnel. This is the end of our presentation with Ernest. Ernest is the poster child for the Long Beach for the Why'd You Stop Me presentation. And Why'd You Stop Me is a separate company from the Long Beach Police Department, just to best clarify. It's two separate entities. But we were out in San Jose providing this training, and Ernest provided a message. There is some explicit language in this message, so hopefully it doesn't offend anybody, but I think you've probably heard something like this before. So we'll listen to this now, and I'll end it for you right in just a second. So tell me your name one more time.
Ernest?
Ernest, you just saw the Why'd You Stop Me presentation, right?
Yes.
What'd you think of the police before the presentation?
I was like, fuck the police. I didn't care for them.
And how old are you?
13.
And be honest with me when you answer this question. After hearing me as a police officer and after seeing the presentation, real talk, what do you think? Do you see things any differently at all?
Yeah, actually, police are meant to be in this world to help and save people's lives.
Wow. That's amazing, man. Well, I appreciate you telling me that, and thank you so much. And hopefully you can wear that hat with pride. Let me see the hat. Put that down. Aha! Well, let me see your wristband. Hey, thanks, man. We're gonna keep in touch. Yes?
Yep.
All right, man. Thanks. I appreciate it. So when we sit there and we find these commonalities with our community, it works out so well, right? And Ernest is wearing one of our Wisdom Snapback hats that we provide to police officers and to community members. But we often sit there and look at this identifier, which is the graffiti, and we think graffiti's bad. Graffiti's not always bad. It's actually artwork sometimes. But if we always see the bad, then we'll always focus on the bad. We want to be able to focus on the good. And if I were to flip my hat around, you'd see this little line on my hat. And that little line on my hat is a thin blue line. And the thin blue line is a group of people that are willing to stand between good and those who are making bad decisions. And we have to be able to do that. And we have to be empowering when doing it. And we have to be holistic. We have to take a holistic approach to doing it. And we have to make sure that we're building an inclusive community. So I want to make sure that you guys understand that the change can be made very quickly, but the change is ongoing. I'm going to tell you a story about Ernest, and this story is going to be very fast, and then we're going to get to questions. But this story really helps us to understand the value of teaching people how you want to be treated, even after they tell you to go F yourself. So Ernest goes through this training, and 1 year later, we get a call from a San Jose police officer. Is this Officer Jason Lehman? I said, yeah, it is. Do you know a guy named Ernest? I said, yeah, I trained him in a class last year. I remember I got him on video. Okay. Well, I have good news and I have bad news. Well, what's the bad news? Officer Lehman, we just caught Ernest with a loaded 9mm handgun in his waistband. Okay, what's the good news? Officer Lehman, I'm calling to tell you that in my 17-year career, Ernest was the most cooperative young man I've ever pointed a gun at. He made me feel so safe. He raised his hands in the air. He looked at me and he said, I have a gun in my waistband and it's not for you. He got down on his knees. He crawled to me. I handcuffed him. I sat him up and he looked at me and he said, I'm sorry. He went from there. He walked him over to the car, and I was really trying to figure out what was going on because I've had bad contacts with his family and this was just really weird. He looked at me before he sat me in the police car. The 14-year-old said, it's nothing personal, officer. So I had to find out where he learned how to do this because I've had these really bad interactions with his family. And he said, so I asked him, where'd you learn this, man? And he said, some big fat bald white cop from Long Beach taught me how to cooperate. That's the same impact that you and the people that you support, work with, your subordinates, your superiors. We all need to hear these messages because it shows that we could all do better. There's a very big message that we sometimes don't realize. If we don't teach the community how we want to be treated, who will? We have to learn a system. We have to embrace the system. So as I stand here, a humble protector, hopefully better exposing you to this training, and I hope you learned something today, I'd like to speak on behalf of our nonprofit board of directors, on behalf of all of our trainers, including Adam Sturgeon, who's on the call right now and coming on board to our team, on behalf of Pasadena Police Chief Dr. John Perez and a whole bunch of the support systems we have, and on behalf of the Department of Justice and Post. We're very, very excited to be able to better expose this training to you, and we'd love to be able to bring this training to your organization. But now what's important to us is for you to ask questions that we need to be able to answer. And Rebecca, the one thing I just saw is that you've been trying to bring this training to your area, and I want Tariq to work with you on that if that's possible to make that happen. But could you type into the chat what agency you're from? Because I'd like to be able to have that information now so I could tell you if we've heard about this or anything, because if you've been contacting my people and we haven't gotten back to you, then I need to make sure we fix that. So Rebecca, what agency, if you could type in that you're from, that would be very, very helpful if you're still here on the chat. And then Tariq, how do you want to run the question and answer?
Well, at this point, thank you, Jason, for what you've done. This has been an excellent presentation. If anyone has questions specific to the presentation itself or just a general, how's life going, please take that opportunity to do so now. As Jason mentioned, we'll be working to bring this to our regions and to our department members over the 2022 calendar year. So I'm really excited to work with some of our partners to see that happen. Does anyone have any questions?
Do they have to type it, or could they speak it, or not? That makes it too hard.
I can, yeah, everyone can unmute if they choose to and jump in.
Because I can't type or write or spell.
At this point, it doesn't appear we have any pressing questions.
Somebody might be typing really slow.
Extra. I think we're getting a lot of great feedback as always. Great job, Jason. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Rebecca. I can't even say it. Oh, can we piggyback on a training provided in our area? Tariq, I don't even know what that area is. Guys, type in your areas so we know, whatever that means. If you could, that'd be helpful. California's a big place. And me and Tariq were going over the list that we've covered. Ventura County, yeah.
We have folks at the Santa Barbara Sheriff's Office who are looking to facilitate a training like this. So if you can make it up to Santa Barbara, North County, that would be great. That would be great, Jesse.
Yeah, thanks, Candido, for that. I'm glad that you were able to sit through the training. That's awesome.
Excellent. Johnny Garcia. All right. Thank you all for everyone that sent me your contact information. I will make sure I reach out to you after the meeting. In addition to that, once we process the recording, it will be uploaded. This is a great opportunity to share this with those folks in command who are the decision makers in terms of what this presentation can provide their agencies. So if you want to share it with your, captains, commanders, whatever it may be, please absolutely do that. And with that being said, Jason, I'm going to stop your screen sharing, if you don't mind.
That works, sir.
All right, thank you. So with that being said, we can come close to an end here. I would like to share our upcoming events with you all as we move forward. So as you can see here, the next two offerings that we're going to be highlighting, it's going to be our 2022 lead series. So this December, and just thumbs up if everyone can see my screen being shared. Excellent. So this marks the end of our 2021 calendar year lead series. We've done a bunch of great lead series from investigating fentanyl, second-degree murder, to fire response. We're looking forward to an excellent 2022 calendar year in terms of these leads, which are offered free to our department members and our individual members. January, we're anticipating a PRA, a Public Records Act update, which will be the same way, about an hour or so for you all. These will be the second Tuesday of every month. We're also looking to do a legislative deep dive in addition to some other work, potentially another CP21 focused on wellness or resiliency. So please stay tuned and keep an eye out for that upcoming 2022 lead series. In addition to that, I wanted to make sure that everyone on the call is aware of our virtual offering coming up in the next 2 months. It's going to be our 2022 Legislative Summit live stream. This is available to register on our website, cpoa.org, and it is our 30th annual Law Enforcement Summit. There will be some folks here at the Capitol actually doing lobbying. Some of you all will be able to participate virtually, but it's a great opportunity to make sure your voice is heard in a place where they're making sure we hear them. A lot of the laws that are impacting the way we work, the way that you all work, are coming out of the Sacramento Capitol. So it's our opportunity to give them some feedback. With that being said, thank you all for participating in this lead series. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Jason. And in absentia, thank you, Dr. Chief, or Chief Doctor. Is that the Dr. Chief Perez for helping out. And as I said before, I will make sure I communicate with everyone who sent me one of those contacts requesting the training. So here we go. We have George Reyes popped in a comment for you. Do you see it, sir?
I do. It says, I'd be happy to attend the training and bring a few of my staff members. We're developing a principal policing course. This would be a huge benefit for us to learn the best ways to present a similar course. Would you please send me information on your upcoming classes? So hopefully we can work on that. That would be helpful. And then a contact in Pleasant Hill. I'm not sure what region Pleasant Hill is in. I don't even know if we're familiar with that.
Pleasant Hill is, I think, NorCal. George, real quick, is it okay if I reach out to you and CC Dennis so that, I'm sorry, Under Sheriff Ruman, so that we have some overlap in terms of the region work, because we may be able to loop in the larger, that East County area in SoCal, Santa Barbara, Riverside, and, San Bernardino, Riverside, and Inyo.
Yeah, one big thing about, and I'll tell you this without going to the course, one big thing about principal policing or any ethics-based training in-house is, and this is what we're going to be able to help you with, is we have to be able to be vulnerable as instructors to provide and present our weaknesses going into a room full of people that are in-house. So if we bring in-house trainers in, George, we want to be mindful that people are going to think this. They're going to say, oh, this person's teaching me how to be ethical, but I know from 8 years ago what this person has done, right? So keep that in mind, and we'll talk more about that through our training. And you'll be able to, your staff will be able to see the way that we present, and it really makes it more effective. Because I think Adam can nod his head. We took a procedural justice course in Long Beach, and we were thinking very similar ideas, right? Like, oh, okay, you're just teaching us this stuff, but do you really live it? So, you know, your instructors, obviously they're instructors because they're living it. We just need to have that extra affinity building piece to be able to make this training go boom. So we'll be able to cover that with your team, George.
Well, great. Thank you. And I look forward to working with you all in the future. Stay tuned, because we will be positioning Jason throughout the state of California over the 2022 calendar year. Those dates are still in development, but we would like to host in 6 different regions. And that will be in addition to the department offerings that you all are asking for. So this is going to be a great year for policing. Excellent. All right. Well, when you're ready to close this out, we can, Jason.
I really appreciate everything, ladies and gentlemen, for this opportunity, for this time. We talk when we go through our training courses, and we put on trainings anywhere from about 60 to 90 minutes all the way to 27 hours. And, you know, you'll never get this time back. But seriously, we appreciate it. We hope you got something out of this. I just want to wish everybody the safest time out there, and thank you for whatever you're doing in whatever capacity for your community. We provide a thankless service, but we didn't sign up to be thanked. We signed up to provide the service. So I hope you continue to provide that service, continue to understand that that we're a team in this and we're in it together. And if for any reason anybody knows somebody that's not okay, or if you're for any reason not okay right now, that is 100% okay. That is human, and it's okay not to be okay. It's just not okay not to ask for support. Not asking for support leads to very bad things. So we appreciate you. I really thank you for all of this opportunity, all of this time. Tariq, the CPOA, and the CPOA partnership to us has been absolutely amazing. So we're excited to make this work, and hopefully we'll be able to look at these comments, because I know there's some more coming in, and we're going to make it all happen. So hope to meet all you guys face to face here soon. I'm glad we're coming to the end of COVID, and we'll see you guys soon. All right. God bless you.
Bye, everyone.